'Tis the season for those irresistible ginger thins, cozy blankets for cuddling by the fire, and making home warm and welcoming. For one-stop holiday shopping, visit your local IKEA or ikea-usa.com/holiday.
Right Night is a talk show with published authors, writers, and content creators discussing both the creative and technical sides of writing, as well as the industry surrounding it, from novels to screenplays to comics and more. And now, here's your host, author Travis I. Sivart.
Hey, welcome to Right Night, everybody. Right Night is a weekly podcast, and it's a coffee chat and writer's round table for us here, which is joined by chat and emails from podcaster listeners. Chat from the live stream we stream this on. Let's do some quick introductions. I am Travis Sivart. I am the host and author of books such as the Portal series. Here's book 1 and 2. Beliefs in Black Magics, Demons and Daggers. I feel it's kind of sad that I have to look at the cover to remember the title, but I do. And these here are fantasy novels about people who come from our world at the moment of their death into a body in the medieval fantasy world. And we'll get more into that because some of that relates to what I want to talk about tonight. But first, let's do some introductions of these other two fine gentlemen. The cream of the crust. The crust of the cream. Aaron?
Crop.
Yeah, the crop of the crust.
The crop of the crust. One of those. Hi, I'm Aaron Kennedy, author of Persona Non Grata, the first of the Ships of Valor book series. I've been a technical writer for over 25 years. I've been published in the Army Times and Army University Press. I'm currently working on the Icarus Black novel series, a young adult sci-fi pulp series. Yeah, that's it. Michael.
Wait, where can I find your book?
Yes, I can be found at bit.ly.
It's bit.ly/Aaron Kennedy. AARON Kennedy, like the president.
Yes. My name's Michael Thompson. I'm here too. I'm an independent author and illustrator. My latest book is Chicken Boy and the Might of the Monkey Man. If you got young ones in the family, Christmas is coming up. Get one to put in your stocking and all that good stuff. This is the latest installment to the first book series that I ever wrote, which was the Chicken Boy series, about an ordinary chicken that eats radioactive birdseed in a town where nothing's ever quite normal, and he fights monsters and mad scientists. And I do all the illustrations myself. Super fun, very funny, lots of action. Check it out on michaelthompsonbooks.com, MichaelThompson books.com. I keep stammering in the middle of my last name.
Well done. One day you'll figure out what it is. And everybody can find my books at bit.ly/Travis Books. That's bit.ly/Travis Books, bit.ly/Travis Books. Okay. So, what I'd really like to talk about you know what? Let me do all the other disclaimers first. For our chat or our podcast listeners could email us at rightnightshow@gmail.com. That's Right Night, just like the show title of the podcast you clicked on. So you should be able to see how that's spelled. And for chat, what are you guys reading, writing, or working on creatively? Let us know. And for the podcast, folks, we do have a live, not so in-studio chat, which we're going to be talking to and responding to and harassing and being harassed by. This bell means I want to read off some comments, though it doesn't always require the bell to do it. Hello, John of Conquest Publishing. Good to see you.
What's up, John?
Also want to make sure you guys know we do have, you know what we'll have here soon? I don't have the sample here, but soon we will have poker chips, tavern poker chips. So that's always good stuff there. And there are also t-shirts and pint glasses available just by going to bit.ly/tavern merch and tavern merch 2. That's the number 2. Other than that, don't forget to support us on Talk of the Tavern, which is toast, topics, and tangents, as well as Stealing for Survival, medieval fantasy role-playing games set in the world of Portals. Yeah, I think we covered everything. So tonight, I really want to talk about people always worry about writer's block. And Michael, yes, I was in the middle of the blurbs. Here you guys. Tracy, thank you for the bits. Much appreciated. Here's to you. Always so supportive. Drink to her health. Writer's block. People say writer's block or I just can't write. Now, I call it bullshit on writer's block. You can always write, but you can't always write well. When you have real world spillover into your head when you're writing, for example, when I wrote Portals Book 3, that should be published soon, Chapter 1 through 6, putting it kindly, they were a skeleton that I had to flesh out. Same with the last 4 or 5 chapters. Putting it not so kindly, they were crap and had to be fixed. Had to be essentially rewritten but I got the words down and could fix it in edit. So I want to talk about when you guys have block, do you write? Do you think writer's block is a real thing? And also how real life can mess up where you are in your head when you're trying to write.
But, so I've ridden myself into corners before.
Right.
So it's not necessarily a writer's block, but I've created obstacles. And the concept of writer's block of not being able to write isn't necessarily... We've got obstacles, okay? And we create obstacles all the time, whether it's work obstacles, sleep obstacles, time obstacles. I mean, there's only 168 hours in a week, okay? For those of us with full-time jobs, there's 40 hours or 45 or 50 or whatever. With a second job, there's another 40 hours. If you want to sleep, let's back off another 56 hours off of that. Sooner or later, you just run out of time. I mean...
You do, especially if you have family commitments, whether you have a pet, a family, another half, kids.
Right. It all just adds up and nickel and dimes you to death. And writing is a job. And I know I harp on this all the time. You are running a business here, and you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. Mm-hmm. I mean, how many hours do we stream friggin' a week? Doing this stuff. I know Travis is on here doing this, the karaoke, the writing streams and all this stuff. There's several hours that are dedicated to that in addition to his normal writing and all that, plus the editing and the behind the scenes stuff that nobody ever sees.
Right.
It all just adds up real damn quick. But obstacles. It's all just about obstacles. With the book Politicus, one of the things that I ran into is a book is going from A to Z. You start off with a concept, and Z, the ending of the book. Okay, right. You got to get from A to Z. With Icarus Black, I know how the book starts. I actually just read it. Read kind of the starting lines to Michael a second ago, and I'll reread them here for just a quick second here. And it's 3 sentences. Thwack, shuffle, shuffle, thwack. The rhythm of John Aramis limping through the halls reverberated off the walls. The louder ping of his cane as it echoed, covering up the sounds of him sub-vocalizing his displeasure. Val, this place is a garbage scow. That is the opening lines as of right now. I also know how the series ends. I've got point A, I've got point B. I know exactly where they are. Now, getting from point A to point Z, there's the friggin' challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In this master document that I've got here, I've got book titles. Mm-hmm. And they're gonna change over here because the first book is Icarus Black, just like not the Harry Potter, with the Artemis Fowl. The first book was Artemis Fowl.
Right.
And then it was Artemis Fowl and the Arctic Adventure, Artemis Fowl and so on and so forth. So book 3 of Icarus Black is Icarus Black and the Mariner's Tale. And I go all the way to book 4 is Icarus Black Soliloquy. And so on and so forth. But I've got those. I know the beats that are happening throughout the story and what I want to happen here. I know what those big arcs are. And I'm filling in the blanks to make all these things happen. I talked about this on a previous show to where Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a major theme that's running down this list. The first book is about the basic needs of food, sleep, shelter. What's happening here? As I move into the second book, I'm hitting up the next tier of Maslow's
So
hierarchy
what about
of
the
needs.
problems writing?
Exactly. And it's just like, okay, here we go. I know how book 1 ends. And I'm just filling in the blanks. And chapter by chapter, scene by scene, it's all going in here. And me and Travis have talked offline about the card system. Oh, here's a deck of 52 cards, and you're just kind of filling in the blanks of, oh, okay, we can juggle this around. The writer's block really comes into place of, oh, do I have the right card to slide into this spot yet? What am I missing? What's the piece? Do I have the right piece that's going to fit in there yet? One of the things that I ran into with Persona non grata was, how do I jump? What's the thing? And a lot of times what I did was, okay, hey, he's moving from here to here. What's the character not going to expect? Mm-hmm. And we've talked about this in our Stealing for Survival show, is the purpose of the DM is to throw a wrench into the players' plans. The purpose of the players is to throw a wrench into the DM's plans. We've got an outline. It's a script. Now, imagine you're putting on a Broadway play and there's a script, and then all of a sudden you take 3 of your key actors, doesn't matter where, you throw them out, you fire them on the spot, and you pull 3 members of the audience. They know what the play is supposed to be about, but they don't know the script. So, hey, we're doing Hamilton tonight. You know the general outline, but congratulations, Hamilton's not actually going to be in it. It's going to be played by Michael Thompson tonight. Go.
Right.
And that's how I kind of approach this.
Interesting.
So let's see what happens.
Taking yourself off guard.
Exactly.
And allowing yourself to be off guard, sort of, leaning into the spontaneity rather than shying away
fresh.
From it. Exactly. Yeah. Kevin Smith talked about doing this with, he did a movie, Red something. Shoot. It was actually one of his more serious movies. Kevin Smith. Red State.
When you're done, I want to give Michael a chance to voice his thoughts, and there's some really good comments in chat, too. So when you finish your thought.
Yeah, with Red State, he talked about every time that he thought he knew where the movie was going, he changed perspective so that he never actually knew what was happening. Because the second he knew, everybody else that was watching it would know. And it turned out to be a great movie. Oh, it's excellent. It's got John Goodman in it. And when he did that movie, and then friggin' Ben Affleck stole all the actors for it and did friggin' another movie and won an Academy Award for it.
Michael, do you want to voice some thoughts on this, and then I'll read the chat stuff?
Yeah. So writer's block, and this is a real common thing that comes up. Everyone knows about it. Lots of aspiring writers will talk about it, and it is kind of a frame of mind. And I like what you said at the top of it, that is you can always write. It's just a matter of whether you can write well. I think it's a matter of how inspired you feel, because we're artists, and there is a level of inspiration where if you can seize that and you can write during that, that's awesome. But it's just a matter of making yourself inspired when you're creating that magic when rather than letting it happen to you. I think that's sort of the big thing. And so what do you need to do to get yourself inspired? You know, when you get to a certain area, you might need to take a walk, take a shower, you know, think about it, pace around, change up your environment. Sometimes I was, when I was writing World of the Orb, and I did this while I was writing my latest book, which is the sequel to Winslow Hoffner's Incredible Encounters, I would go outside on the deck and I would bring my writing journal, and then I would write it on the journal first, and changing the medium with which I was writing it kind of helped to like break the ice. I remember I did this all the time with World of the Orb, and I had I was especially attracted to like very regular loose leaf paper or like notebooks, and writing in those because it was like the least it was a lot less intimidating than like a blinking cursor on the blank screen, because that is like ultimate chaos. So from that you want to like paint your story. But yeah, so I think changing your environment can help, changing what you're writing on can help, and also just thinking like what would the best version of myself be doing right now. And writer's block is just kind of a fear to start. And if you visualize, you know, yourself doing that activity that requires that, you know, leap of bravery, then I think that you know that's usually appealing to a writer's mind, because what we're doing is translating a mental experience into a physical one with the book. And if you look at yourself as a character, it's like, oh, I'm gonna you imagine yourself, you know, doing the thing,
right?
That can help you actualize it. So imagining yourself being productive, like the day before, for instance.
And I'm definitely going to touch on that more in depth. Wordowin here, my ever invaluable moderator there, and thank you for posting the links. Appreciate that. Posted a link to Wikipedia for what that's worth, folks. And I'm going to read the first paragraph, the only paragraph I'm going to read from this. Writer's block is a condition primarily associated with writing in which an author loses the ability to produce new work or experiences a creative slowdown. I like that creative slowdown part.
Yeah.
This loss of ability to write and produce new work is not a result of commitment problems or the lack of writing skills. The condition ranges from difficulty in coming up with original ideas to being unable to produce work for years. Writer's block is not solely measured by time passing without writing. It is measured by time passing without productivity in the task at hand. And
interesting.
Yeah, productivity in the task at hand. I think that's a very good phrase. Wordowin also says, for writer's block, I use the definition of it being a form of depression. For what most people call writer's block, I use anxiety. Thus my saying, worry less, write more. And this is definitely something I want to go into. Writer's block, when your head is not in the place to write well, as I said, you can always write, it just might not be very good. So, see, I want to build on a couple things Aaron said, and a couple things Michael said, and a couple things Wordowin said. John says, I'm too busy to have writer's block. There is that. Cutting to a new scene or a new perspective, when I'm just stuck on what's next in the story, that works great for me. That definitely does very well for me. Because my philosophy is if I'm bored or confused or at a dead end as a writer, my reader probably will be also. So switching it up to something new, a new perspective, a new scene, or just flipping the script, Aaron's comparison to pulling audience members to do the next part, to keep it fresh, is a great way to do that. I like to compare writing to dieting or workout. When you're dieting or working out, you need to do it every day, even if you're not in the mood. You've got to make it a habit. You've got to make it something you do no matter what. Even if you're not getting your best results that day, to keep up that habit is important. And And going from there, there's ways to do that, and we'll probably build on this. But we could talk about outlining and planning and structure that helps you keep on the rails when you can't come up with new ideas. You have preset ideas in your planning stage that can help you keep going. But most important in my head, going back to what Wordwin said and what Michael was talking about, anxiety, clearing your head. We're always better at what we're doing when we're not distracted with other thoughts. Whether that's sitting there watching a movie, or writing a book, or cleaning the house. If you can focus solely on what you're doing and not have all these outside things weighing on you, that's the magic time. Now, how do you clear your head? How do you get to that point, as Michael pointed out? Back on the deck, writing journal for a change of scenery. But this is an age-old question, and almost every religion and philosophy touches on it at some point in time. How do you get zen enough that nothing is bothering you and distracting you, including your own anxiety of doing what you're doing at the moment? And that's the magic thing. So I'm going to pause here before I go on and let you guys jump in on this, so I don't just keep prattling. You guys got some thoughts on how to get past that anxiety, that block?
I mean, it's a component of that's the big mountain that you have to climb, and it's probably a good thing. I mean,
there is no spoon.
It's always, yeah,
but there is no mountain. That mountain is in your mind,
right? But it is like a
definitely an obstacle.
It's a problem solving sort of thing, and so it's a creative endeavor, and it requires creative solutions. So like when I was writing my latest book, which will come out in January, that's the aim at least. There was a very different sort of timeline structure to it. And so I had to get creative with how to address that timeline. And we'll talk about this a couple shows from now, but it was writing the major scenes that had to happen. And this was kind of like a beat sheet, on like kind of like little index cards. Mm-hmm. And then figuring out the order in which, because it's an alinear story, and then seeing like, okay, this is what happens with this character, this is what happens with this character, and then weaving them together.
At Capella University, education is as smart as the world around us. With the FlexPath format, you can take classes at your own pace, set your own deadlines, and even leverage your previous experience to move faster. Now that's smart. Learn more at capella.edu.
'Tis the season for those irresistible ginger thins, cozy blankets for cuddling by the fire, and making home warm and welcoming. For one-stop holiday shopping, visit your local IKEA or ikea-usa.com/holiday.
Like that. And it was the first time I'd ever done it, but you have to be the type of writer that your book needs you to be.
Aaron, did you have some thoughts?
And I've mentioned this previously, if you're going to have you have two projects. When you can't work on this one for whatever reason, whether psychological, emotional, or freaking focus on the other one. When this one doesn't work out, you switch back to this one, and then hopefully you're kind of building both of these up at the same time. I realize real life's going to get in the way, but it seems to work for friggin' Icarus Black and Politicus. I'm building them both up at the same time. I've varied a lot by having the two project kind of philosophy. I'm building both up.
Yeah. It gives you a break, allows you to stew on the other one without thinking about it.
Yeah,
exactly. I used to do the same thing with books. I'd read two books concurrently. That way, I never just kind of stalled out on one.
It's a good idea. I'm trying to implement like a one illustration project, one writing project, always going at the same time, because I feel like it must be two different parts of the mind, because you're illustrating, it's a single still image, and so whereas you're writing, it's this living, breathing thing. And so, for instance, I can listen to music all day long when I draw, but I don't want to hear anything, when I'm writing. I want to be totally zoned in. But that's a great way to rest whatever part of your mind likes to do that type of creation versus whatever part of your mind likes to do the other type of creation.
And something I always like to point out is we all do it differently. Aaron's two-project thing doesn't work well for me because I end up getting really into one, ignoring the other one. And I don't hit a stopping point till I hit the end. Michael, I used to not listen to music or only music without words or words I couldn't understand. Right. And now I stream while writing. So I've got music, I've got chat, I've got multiple things going. So my point is, if anybody listening to this is like, oh, I've tried that, it doesn't work for me, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We're each going to do it our own way. It's a matter of finding that way, or like myself, you can change. And what worked for you before might not work anymore, and what didn't work may be fine for you now. What I'll say about, Michael, you mentioned a mountain, and I said the spoon doesn't exist. That's a quote from Matrix.
Right.
Where you have a problem. How do you overcome that problem? Well, the problem doesn't exist. It's all in your head. So if that doesn't exist, then it's not a problem. And that's the hardest thing to wrap your head around when you have a problem that's influencing your creativity. But Michael mentioned, you've focused on this, get pulled away, but it's not a matter of focusing on what's blocking you. It's a matter of making it not exist in your head.
I like that.
Then you don't have to go over it. You don't have to go around it. It's just not there. And if you can bring yourself to that moment where before you start writing, you deep breaths or whatever you need to do, take a drink some water, stare at the wall, stare at the scene, whatever you do to remove the anxiety from your head, even if it's the next chapter, remove that. Hello, Kennedy, as in Joseph Kennedy. Good to see you. That's one of the hardest things to do, but if you can do that and just move forward, the old Nike thing of just do it.
Yeah.
Or Shia LaBeouf now would just do it.
Something else.
Go ahead.
Yeah, something else is that I notice, and this could just be a component of the creative process, or just happy synchronicity. But sometimes you're writing a book, and the message of the book or what the characters are going through, you can so closely relate to that. And so whatever you're going through, whatever stress you may be feeling, you can draw upon that and sort of pour it into the characters and see how they, overcome it. And so in a way you're writing to yourself as your first reader, and connecting with it in that way. I remember, and it was a different sort of thing. But when I was writing World of the Orb, which was my first really big novel, and I had sort of like gotten into a real good groove, and then I was coming up on the end, like right before the big finale of the book. Right. There was a moment where I was like, oh, this adventure is coming to an end. I don't know if I, and I had been writing this book since I was like, or I conceived of it when I was like 9 or 10 years old. And I had written the first draft. I started it when I was 12, and then I rewrote it when I was 15. And then here it was, such a major, massive chunk of my life. And I was like, whoa. And so I didn't even know if I wanted to.
A third of your life. Yeah.
To see it come to an end was such a major deal. And so, but at that point in the book, what was very appropriate and what aligned with how I was feeling was how Marvin was feeling, because he had spent months in this alternate world, the main character, and he sort of like he overcame his troubles, his doubts and stuff, and he became a hero, and he seemed differently in that world than he is on Earth, and he's like, so he doesn't know if he wants to leave, and so he's grappling with that at the same time that I, the writer, am grappling with ending the story. And
did you write
so
to that? Did you take your own anxiety and write it to his?
Of course, yeah. And so that's what helps get you through it. And that's, ideally what readers will be able to connect to as well is the realness of it. And so you, as your first reader, you can sort of overcome those stresses and those fears through your characters and through the victories of your characters and the growth and development.
There's been times when I'm writing where I'm like, I don't know what to do next. And I've taken that and I've had the character directly say that. I don't know what to do next, in quotes. I'm lost. I'm clueless. I'm at a wall. Here's my problem. And I have the character. Now, you can always edit that out later. And by the way, I've seen other writers do this. And I'm like, I wonder if Stephen King was having that same kind of moment when he wrote this scene, where he just wasn't sure what the hell to do next. Which, by the way, here's a fun fact. Readers get that same anxiety, Michael. Andrea will quite often put a book down for a matter of weeks when she gets to the last couple chapters and won't read them.
Wow.
Because she doesn't want it to end. She's in this world. She's loving this world, loving these characters, and she doesn't want it to end. She doesn't want to say goodbye. Now, eventually she will pick it up and finish it, but we're not the only ones that get it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Now, Aaron, I saw you tilt your head when I mentioned the whole, it's like, I compare it to dieting and working out of making it a habit. Did you have some thoughts on that?
I was like, what would you know about dieting and working out?
Well, I know about writing, and I just compare it to the two.
Right. But you have to know about both concepts to compare them, sir.
I have dieted successfully a long time ago, and I remember doing it. I did work out at one point in time, too. I was like 23. It was amazing. I looked great. Let's move on from that topic.
Yes, and
there's nobody was anding and moving on.
Okay.
So, do you guys find an outline, a structure, and Aaron, you're heavy on this. Do you find that helps you in times where you're stuck?
It does, but a lot of times that's one of those. I'm a firm believer of letting things run in the background of my own head. My subconscious is great. Because what I'll do is, all right, I know I've got to get from here to here to here to here. I've got 3 arcs going on, and I've built a lot of structure in here and a lot of fill in the blanks that I'm going to hit. Like, I know, hey, one mentor leaves, another mentor arrives. That mentor is going to leave. He returns later on, but, okay, what's going to happen here? I've got gaps. I need to fill that gap. And my brain's going to fill it in and go, oh, that's going to be perfect here later on. And I'm just going to pop it in.
You know what? I think a little bit later we should do a whole show on structuring.
Yeah, I think definitely.
Probably pretty soon.
Yes. Good idea.
We should write that down.
No, and there's some things that are going to happen here, and it's one of those establishing things that have got to there are things that have to take place, and will this concept work to drop in there, or just hold on to this later. It fits, and is it right? Or maybe not. And I have a lot of that stuff that's just bouncing around in the back of my head. Mm-hmm. That first paragraph, the garbage scow thing I've had for a while. John calling the place a garbage scow I've had for months. Mm-hmm. But the very first thing where I had the thwack, shuffle, thwack, I finally got that. It finally closed the loop probably a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
And that was what I needed. I needed the sound of his cane hitting the floor as he's walking through the corridor. Mm-hmm. And that's what closed that sentence. And that's a repeating theme that's taking place in chapter 1, mm-hmm. As he's walking through there.
By the way, as I was doing some work on my next book earlier today, we had a brainstorming session in chat about certain physical affectations.
That's what she said.
There's Pine. Hello, Pine. Good to see you. About physical affectations, in other words, physical things your characters can do that define them, and during dialogue they can do this thing, whether it's chewing on a toothpick or constantly smoothing their eyebrows or playing with their mustache or smoothing their clothes, or the cane, fiddling with a cane was mentioned, and these are great
specificity.
Yeah, that you could put in between dialogue or as a character is entering the room. From now on in that book, that thwack, shuffle, shuffle is just as good as saying, oh, that guy arrived.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, you're creating your own lexicon, your own legend in terms of
it's a unique voice just for that.
Absolutely. Like in Persona non grata, one of the things that distinguishes Hart, he doesn't use contractions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's a very simple thing. Eri doesn't use quotations. He's as the narrator, he doesn't use quotations. In this book, I have Val. Val is our narrator, and he's not using quotations because he's the one telling the story. It's a contrast from the other book. But so I got Val telling the story. We've got friggin' Aramis, he's part of the thing. Ike is going to be introduced in a couple chapters here, who is our main protagonist.
Yeah.
But we've got this, the thwack, shuffle, shuffle, thwack of the cane is something that becomes important. But I wanted that there because it creates that specific character.
Yeah. The opening of a book is so important, and that's something that can really like snap you free of that writer's block or that mindset or that fear. I've always like I can say the beginning of every book, by heart. Like that's how important it is, and then also the beginning of every chapter is just that hook, that bringing you in.
What sets
I really
the tone.
like that. Yeah, and when I was reading Persona non grata, when I was reading the first your book in the first chapter, I was really enjoying it, and I enjoyed just a good your description of his metal arm and just gliding across all those different attributes, and then the nice random alien right behind him, the what was it? He was like a big orangutan type guy. Yeah, the Horan. And I was like, man, that's great. It reminded me of Star Wars, just great world building and stuff.
Well, and you'll notice that there's not a whole lot of description in the book as you go through. Your brain is filling in all these gaps. And one of the things I say is, I'm not a great descriptive guy. Much like Travis, I'm a storyteller. I tell, I don't show. You are filling in all this stuff. Your brain's filling in all the gaps. So you're seeing your story based on the words.
Yeah. That's neat. Everyone has their own experience when they read. You have a very good. It has a good voice and militaristic sort of slang and stuff already, and from that you can glean the character. That's important. That establishing the beginning of the book. It's really good. It's really important.
There we go. It's so we've got just a little under 10 minutes left. So once again, when looking at having problems writing, writer's block, anybody want to recap their thoughts or add anything new to whether it's the real world spilling over into your writing where it's creating an issue for you or anything else? Aaron?
Well, it's important to write. Not everything you write is going to make it into the book anyway. We're going to edit things down. So that scene that you talk about, okay, the first chapter, that I actually cut out 3 chapters before that. When you're there, I still have them, of course, but in an effort to speed up the pace, to create that sense of you've got to have something happening soon because the demand's there. I trimmed it off. It was important that, okay, we got to have something happening soonish. And without that, people lose interest.
Right.
There's the demand for a roller coaster to start almost immediately. Most of us have been to Splash Mountain at one point or another.
Like
Splash Mountain is all build up and then one drop. That's not what modern books are about, though. They're all, well, they are, but they're the build up on the steep climb and then a drop. Whereas Splash Mountain kind of takes you up that long curve, and then it takes you through the story, and then it drops you off the end. A lot of modern storytelling is we get you into the story, into the story, into the story, into the story. Yeah. It's more like the A-Team movie, where right now you start off, you've got Hannibal King in the desert, friggin' pulls over B.A. Baracus, and then all of a sudden you're in this action-adventure movie 3 minutes in. Let's rock and roll.
Right.
And I had to speed things up to make it interesting for the readers, because that was the big thing that the beta readers kind of commented on. Now, everybody that kind of liked that friggin' Harry Harrison, Robert Heinlein feel loved the world building up to that point. They're like, no, I love this. I love the telling of the story. They didn't want to lose that, but I'm like, no. The comments that I got from the people outside that realm, I'm like, okay, let me trim it off. Let's see how it goes. And then I had them reread it, and they're like, oh, wow, that knits it together.
Yeah, and you can always put that information in later. Or, like myself, there was one book, I wrote 40 or 50,000 words on this book and trashed the whole project.
Mm.
And that partially...
Well, that's what I did with Politicus.
Yeah. Yeah. This kind of had also to do with the genre, which Politicus had that too. With, the whole storyline, it wasn't the right time to put it out. It's the audience isn't necessarily there for that story. I had other reasons for my story, but that was part of it. Michael, closing thoughts or recap on this?
Well, I think the thing that I connected with the most was the sort of embedding your experience into your characters. That sort of symbiotic relationship between the writer and the character at whatever point in the story you happen to be at. I think that breathes a lot of life into it, because there is a lot of times to feel those emotions and to work through them, and to have your characters do that, and especially in the case of a book where you can hear the character's thoughts, that's one sort of way where you can do it. Or if it's not as omniscient, where you can see the characters sort of working through it, or physically working through it, if you manifest it as a sort of as an obstacle that's symbolic of whatever the struggle may be. Write with your characters, and it'll get you through those patches, and enhance the story at the same time.
And mine is basically, if you're having a problem writing, figuring out what it is, and then removing that from your head if you can, almost through a meditative sort of release, just not letting that problem exist while you're writing. If you can do that, then you can get back into that creative flow, and that's not always easy to do. Fun fact, having a drink helps me do that. But so does, closing my eyes for 30 seconds and breathing deep and just clearing the other thoughts, and then open and just start typing. And then put myself in my characters' heads instead of my own. So, we'll wrap this up now with me saying thank you for you guys hanging out in chat. Much appreciated. Here's to our subscribers and everybody like Tracy who threw bits and hosted and subscribed and rated. Picked up some of that merchandise that's available at bit.ly/tavernmerch. That's bit.ly/tavernmerch. Or, same thing, bit.ly/tavernmerch and the number 2 afterwards. That's the pint glasses. As well as a hat and patches. Our supporters on Patreon and PayPal, appreciate them, and we're going to get out of here. And don't forget, you can email us at rightnightshow@gmail.com with your thoughts how you get past things, or other questions you might have that you'd like us to address on the show. So that's Right Night, spelled just like the podcast, and we will catch you guys next time.
Thank you for joining author Travis I. Sivart and the other writers, content creators, and all-around amazing people for our discussion here on Right Night. Join us again soon, and until you do, make sure you create with passion, enjoy the journey, and remember, every night can be right enough.
You know when you order a new video game, or a golf club, or a blender, and then it arrives at your door, you get a little thrill. Imagine how much more thrilling it is when you order a new car. With Nissan at Home, you can shop for the perfect ride and order it without ever having to go anywhere. Sure beats a golf club or a blender. Buy a new car entirely online with Nissan at Home. Delivered direct from dealer to driveway. Thrill starts here. Services may vary at participating dealers, subject to applicable law. See dealer for details.